Good morning, good evening, and hello everyone. Welcome to Sentence Correction webinar by e-GMAT. My name is Payal Tandon and I will be your host today. I'm one of the co-founders of e-GMAT, and I've been instrumental in creating this meaning-based approach towards sentence correction. So let's get started here. Now, I would want to understand when is it that all of you are planning to take the test, just to get an idea about the makeup of this group so that I can tweak my session if required. So it appears that if you haven't already put in your responses here, please do so. And quite a few of you put in your responses while you were waiting for the session to begin, so thank you for that. All right, so there are four equally, three equally spaced, two actually, the number keeps changing. Let me end the poll here. All right, so it appears that quite a few of you, about 42% of the class is going to be taking the test over the course of next 1 month. All right, so that's a pretty large segment. And then another equally large segment is people who haven't as yet, is composed of people who haven't really taken the test yet, or whose test date is beyond 45 days. All right. Good, that makes sense. So I believe, because quite a few of you are taking the test over the course of next 1 month, I believe that you are already well into your GMAT prep. So this session will be really a nice session for you to make sure that you are headed on the right path, that you have a solid strategy towards sentence correction. If sentence correction is your nemesis, then this session is going to introduce you to certain strategies that you can apply to give you an idea about what it is that you need to change in the manner in which you are preparing. So and then for people whose GMAT test date is beyond 30 days, needless to say, it's going to be very, very helpful for you guys as well. So thank you so much for your information here. Now, in order to prepare you well for the session, we shared this content with you, and I hope that all of you would have gotten a chance to go through all of the content, or at least some of the content, so that you are so that you understand how is it that that we teach concepts here, and to get that basic foundation knowledge about these topics. So if you haven't as yet gone through these concepts, definitely after the session take the time out to go through them. Okay. All right. Now we conduct these free webinars every week, both days of the weekend. So tomorrow, definitely register for this session in which I'm going to be talking about how can you ace number properties questions. And then next week on Saturday, I'll be talking about strategies with regards to reading comprehension. So I really look forward to seeing all of you in these two sessions as well. All right then, so I'm going to change the presentation pod here. So it's going to take a couple of seconds for the slide to stabilize at your end. So I would want all of you to click on yes if you can see GMAT sentence correction with the agenda and my picture on the slide, because that's an indication that that it has synced in at your end. All right, so yes, so it has stabilized. Thank you. All right, so once again, welcome to GMAT Sentence Correction webinar, e-GMAT Sentence Correction webinar. All right, so there are three parts to this session. In the first part, I'm going to give you a brief introduction about how is it that we teach concepts and applications, and why is it that you're going to be better off learning at e-GMAT than at any other place. So in the second part of the webinar, which is the main part, we are going to talk about the strategies that you need to apply to prepare for sentence correction. And then we're going to take up some questions towards the end, and these questions need not be limited to sentence correction. These can be anything with regards to your GMAT prep or your MBA applications. And okay, let me just make sure that the voice is clear because there are a couple of you who are saying that the voice is not clear. So let me just take another poll. So is my voice loud and clear? And you can put in your subjective responses as well, in case there's any other issues. Okay, it's clear. All right, so for those of you who are having any problems, please log back in. All right, good. I think it's just taking a bit of time for the screen to stabilize at their end. All right, thank you so much. Sorry for that interruption. All right. Okay, so let's get to know all of you a little bit more. So I'm going to ask you this question, and this question is, what is your target score? So enter it here. Okay, let's get a few more responses here. I have about 190 people in the session, so let's get a few more responses. All right, so about 90% of you are targeting more than 720. Okay, all right, sounds good. Okay, so and that's a norm, right? A number of you, more than 90% of you, are targeting a score of 720. However, there are only 6% of people who actually end up scoring a 720. Okay, and if you look at MBA.com and look at the stats, you will realize this stat here, that only 6% of people score a 720 or higher. Another thing that you're going to realize is that the median GMAT score at most top B schools has been going up for the last few years, and just this year these are the median scores at the top schools, and that's by how much they have increased. So what about these people who end up scoring 720 or higher, who end up getting to their target score? A good percentage of these students use e-GMAT. Okay, now if you look at some of the stats, you're going to come to the very same conclusion. Okay, and let's talk about these stats. Let's look at the number of verified reviews on GMAT Club. e-GMAT, Magoosh, Veritas Prep, and Manhattan Prep are 4 of the top test prep companies in the GMAT test space. And when you look at the number of verified reviews, you will find that e-GMAT has more verified reviews than all of them combined. Okay. Now, what are these verified reviews? These are reviews posted after October of 2015 or about 3 years ago and have been verified using an enhanced score report or a verified GMAT Club membership. Similarly, if you take a look at the number of success stories written on GMAT Club's Share GMAT Experience, you will find a very similar story. e-GMAT has been mentioned more frequently in those success stories than the next 3 most popular test prep companies. And the links to both these stats are below, so you can definitely, I request all of you to go and verify these stats for yourself. So what makes our students more successful? It's really the architecture of our courses, or I would say that distinct approach to GMAT prep. So let's take a step back and understand what are the various learning architectures that are prevalent in the literature today. There are really 2 different architectures. The first one is the most common architecture, and that's the book-based approach. And the second one is the private tutoring-based architecture. Now, if you compare the online prep companies today, most of them are centered around this book-based architecture. Now, yes, you may argue that they do have audiovisual learning, so how can I make this claim? Yes, they have added audiovisual learning to their offerings, but their core architecture is still the same as that of a book-based approach, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you. Okay. e-GMAT, on the other hand, is built around a private tutoring-based architecture. And let's see what the difference between these 2 architectures is and why one architecture has a higher success rate than the other. Now, in order to do that, it's very important to set a baseline on how is it that you ace the GMAT. Okay? To get a score of 720 or higher, the first thing that you need to do is create a personalized path towards your goal. Then you need to make sure that you learn the concepts that you do not know. Then you need to learn how to apply those concepts. And finally, you need to confirm that you have attained a level of mastery that you actually do score that 720 or higher score, or that 94 percentile. Or in other words, you can perform better than 94% of the test takers. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to now compare the two architectures based on each of these 4 points. So first, let's talk about the book-based architecture. A book-based approach is all about autonomy. In the book-based architecture, you get a lot of learning material and possibly some mocks. But the key decisions on how to go about preparing are completely on to you. For example, in a book-based approach, you create your own study plan. You create a schedule. You study the concepts. And while studying the concepts, you have to make a decision on your own as to whether you have attained the level of mastery enough to move forward. Now, once you learn the concepts, you practice questions. Why? Because books don't focus a whole lot on teaching you how to apply the concepts. You typically learn application by practicing, which is why people who prepare using books or book-based architectures, you believe in practicing and tend to solve thousands of questions. Now, once you've solved these questions, you then take mock tests to evaluate whether you need to focus. Again, the onus of analysis and decision making here is completely onto you, and it can get quite subjective. A private tutoring based approach works slightly differently. In fact, I would say slightly is an understatement here. A good private tutor also starts with the study plan. To do that, a tutor first evaluates your strengths and weaknesses to create the fastest path to your goal. Once you have this personalized study plan, your tutor then teaches you concepts, evaluating you constantly in the approach. Again, the key thing being evaluating you constantly in the approach, in the process. Once you have learned a few concepts, not all the concepts, just a small set of concepts, the tutor then teaches you how to apply these concepts in a methodical manner. And this cycle of learning concepts and teaching application, reinforcing application goes on for some time, and after that, the tutor typically carries out focused evaluation of mastery of your concepts. In the event that you reach mastery, you move on. Otherwise, the tutor creates a mini revision plan for you. So how do these approaches compare? While you learn the same concepts in both the approaches, mind you, concepts remain the same, right? A verb ing word is a verb ing word. The concept is not going to change from one test prep material to another test prep material, right? But there are two key differences between these two approaches. One, the private tutoring based approach is a lot more personalized, starting with the study plans and constant evaluation at each stage. Second, the extent of application that you learn in a private tutoring based approach is a lot higher. So now let's see, why am I saying that e-GMAT is designed to behave a lot more like a private tutor? So we will start off with step 1, which is create your personalized study plan. Now let's say you're someone starting at 600 and your goal is to reach a score of 720. Now we have created GMATplanner.com, which is an AI utility that empowers each and every one of you to build your own personalized study plan. How does it work? You have a very step-by-step process over here, a very smooth workflow in which you enter what your current scores are, both in quant and verbal, and then you basically decide based on what your target score is, and in this case your target score is 720, you decide, okay, how is it that you're going to reach to that 720 score? You're going to get quant 50 and verbal 38. If let's say you're not as sharp in quant as your friend, you may decide to go, let's say, quant 48, and accordingly your verbal score will increase. So having that idea really helps you understand how much you need to master quant versus verbal and vice versa. Now you don't just stop there. Once you have decided on the approach, you then need to create those intermediate trackable targets. For example, to get to a quant 50, there are 3 different ways that you can get there, right? So you decide what way do you want to move on, right? What way do you want to choose? In this case, the student has decided to be equally good in arithmetic and algebra geometry, the two different sections on quant. Now, let's say you find arithmetic a lot more interesting than algebra, then you may decide to achieve perfection in arithmetic, but not that perfect level in algebra geometry. So again, this AI tool gives you all the possibilities that exist for you to get to your target quant score of 50 and your target verbal score of 38 in this case. And again, you make that choice based on what your interest level and on your skill level. Okay. So again, in verbal, let's say this student has decided to do really well in SC and equally well in CR, but not really push himself as much in RC, and this score combination is going to get him to a verbal 38, right? So when you make these decisions, your journey to that 720 score is not a black box in which you keep studying, and then you take the marks towards the end with the hope that you get to 720. Versus your journey to your 720 is really a set of 5 neatly trackable milestones. And if you hit those milestones, you can be very certain that you can get to that 720 score. So again, here's just one of the screenshots of the tool here. You can see the current score is Q44 with this breakup in arithmetic algebra. The target score is Q50 with the milestones with regards to arithmetic algebra. The same thing is there for verbal as well. So you know exactly from what point you need to go to what point in each of the 5 subsections. Okay. Not only that, you get a very neatly laid out path with the time commitment that is required. You have your starting abilities, you have your target abilities, and then you have your time per subsection. Now, your goal is not just from 600 to 720. Your goal is to get in algebra from 39 to 83, in SC from 50 to 89. Now this becomes your truly personalized study plan. Furthermore, you can now actually, so this is what we were talking about earlier. Not only that, you can actually put in your hours here, the hours that you plan on spending each day throughout your GMAT prep. You can even increase the hours on, let's say you decide to take off from work on 7th of March, you can actually put in 6 hours instead of the typically 2 hours that you scheduled for that day, right? Or let's say you want to take a break from studying on the following Friday, you can just change that 2 hours to 0 hours and everything adjusts automatically. Okay. All right. So I would actually request all of you to experience GMAT Planner for yourself. It's available free of charge to everyone. Just click on gmatplanner.com. And again, we've spent these thousands of hours to create this tool so that you can create your study plan in fewer than 7 minutes. All right, so once your plan is created, now, and you have these 5 milestones. Now let's see how e-GMAT personalizes your learning towards these milestones. Now, Private Tutor frequently evaluates whether you've learned or not. Our technology platform is designed to do the exact same thing. Let's see how. Let's take a look at subject-verb module of our sentence correction course, which is one of the 10 modules that exist in the course. Every concept that we teach here is in audiovisual format, and you can see that. And similar to a private tutor, each concept contains a post-concept quiz that evaluates how well have you learned. For example, the feedback that this student gets is that he hasn't really mastered subject-verb must-exist concepts and subject-verbs words that change the number. So the system is telling him to go back and revise these concepts. Okay. Now, how is this different from other online courses that do contain audiovisual content? Let's take a look at another popular course, Magoosh. This is a screenshot from Magoosh's interface. There are 2 things that you will observe. Firstly, there are just lessons, no evaluation. Also, the time that you see is for the duration of lesson and not the actual time that you've spent on each of these concepts. Okay. Secondly, in the context of subject-verb, the breadth of coverage is not even comparable. Overall, this looks more like a book than a private tutor. Now, after you have learned these concepts, a private tutor also teaches you how to apply those concepts. He tells you what do you need to do in step 1, what do you need to do in step 2, and so on. Not only that, a private tutor evaluates your ability to apply these concepts as well, and that is where our application files come into picture. I mean, these are such important files, and these are things that you won't find anywhere else in any other course. Okay, these are dedicated files in which we teach you how to apply these concepts, and then we evaluate your ability to apply through the practice quizzes over here. Okay, and finally we have a list of official questions with comprehensive solutions on which you can apply your learning, and you get a score for each one of them. So you know how well you are learning to apply, and how well you're learning the process and how well you're able to apply them. And this is how every module, whether in your quant course or in your verbal course, is architected. In fact, just to tell you, there are more than 15 application files in just the sentence correction course. Now, by contrast, in Magoosh offering, there is no application file. There is just one practice quiz with 5 questions, and this practice quiz is common not only to subject verb but also to pronouns. Lastly, there is no score indicator on the dashboard to tell you how well you are learning. Okay. Again, as in the case of the book, the goal is to simply provide you information and not as much to provide feedback that is personalized to your ability. Now, once you've learned the concepts and their corresponding application, we then go on to evaluating the mastery of the extent of your mastery of the concepts. Remember, in SC your goal was to get from 50 percentile to 90 percentile. Now in the e-GMAT portal, we have built a specific tool called Scholaranium that has ability quizzes that allow you to measure your SC ability at any point in time. Not only that, it also empowers you to create path to reaching your target ability scores. Now let's say you finished your SC course, and after finishing course you come to Scholaranium and you take the Scholaranium ability quiz. You get to 76 percentile ability. But remember, your goal was to get to 90, so you still need to get from 76 to 90 percentile. Okay. How do you do that? Well, Scholaranium Analytics guide you how to get there, right? You take a look at your skill data and you can directly observe that comparison section is where you need to focus on, right? So now you go into comparison questions, you evaluate how is it that you're doing in there, what step are you not doing correctly, and then you come back to Scholaranium and you take another custom quiz just with comparison questions to make sure that you've improved. Okay, so now the student has a very clear path from 76 percentile to 90 percentile. Okay, so essentially through these slides, what I've told you is how is it that you can prepare utilizing the e-GMAT course. Okay, so this is really a very good planning section, and I would want each one of you to create your personalized study plan, make sure that you get these milestones and utilize the course in the right manner so that you get to those target milestones. So I hope that all of you understand the key differences between the two approaches, and you can understand why e-GMAT is a lot more like a private tutor than a book. Okay. Now, you can create an amazing architecture, but to make it truly impactful, you also need to have good instructors who create the right kind of content. And at e-GMAT, we have some of the best instructors that you're going to find in the business. In fact, 4 out of GMAT Club's top 5 instructors work for e-GMAT. Instructors who not only work full-time in helping you ace the test, but also have been reviewed a lot more frequently on GMAT Club. So frankly, it should no longer be a surprise that while only 6% of individuals score 720 or higher, a good number of them study with us. All right. I am sorry about that. Yeah. So I'm going to request all of you to connect with Rajat on LinkedIn so that you can meet the other students who are already either current students or who are already in their MBA school, so that you can, build your network there. Okay, so with this, let's now get going with the second part of this session, in which we're going to talk about your sentence correction strategies here. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to first talk about your current approach to sentence correction, and for that I'm going to be asking you certain questions that's going to give me a good idea about how is it that you're approaching sentence correction today. Okay, then we'll understand what is important to master sentence correction, and towards the end we're going to put together a plan of action. Okay, so let's get going here. I'm going to share these questions with you. So read the question on the screen and answer it here. All right, let's get a few more responses here. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. I won't share the results just yet. Then I have the next question. What's your, when you solve an SC question, where do you spend, how do you split your time amongst choices? So here you go. All right. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now, and now let's look at the results here. For the first question, here are the results. So, more than half of the class believes that understanding meaning of the sentence is the most critical aspect of mastering GMAT SC. Okay, whereas actually, just give me 1 second. Just bear with me for a second here. Okay. Whereas when we come to the second question, 80% of you believe actually eliminate some wrong answers first and then equally split time amongst the remaining choices. So what this tells me is, 80% of you over here, what this tells me is that you do understand that meaning is important, but you don't know how to incorporate that in your approach towards solving questions. Okay? And that's what we're going to learn in this session. We're going to learn what is the role of meaning in sentence correction. Okay? The correct answer to the previous question over here was that you need to spend more than half of your time in analyzing choice A. If you truly believe that understanding meaning of the sentence is the most critical, then that should have been manifested by you spending more than half of your time in analyzing choice A. That's how it should be done in practice. Okay, so clearly, because what you're doing is not the right thing over here, because you are not implementing that approach appropriately, there is a big disconnect, and that disconnect is what we're going to correct in this session. For that, it's important to learn what is the role of meaning in sentence correction, why is it that we should be spending more than half of our time on choice A, and again, how does this meaning-based approach play into the timing aspect of the test. Okay, and then we'll talk about how is it that you can get to 90 percentile ability. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this session is that we're going to be solving multiple questions, about 4 questions to be exact, and these questions are sequenced in progressively difficult order, right? Now, the first question is definitely the easiest, but it's just to get your feet wet, and it's just to give you an idea about what is important in sentence correction. Okay, so here's your first question. Now what I do is, whenever I give a question, I don't really say you only have 1 minute to solve the question or whatnot. What I look at is, when about half of the class has put in the responses, I give you a 10 to a 30-second warning depending upon the difficulty level of the question. So let's get all of you to click on still solving, because that tells me how many of the 250 people who are in the session are actually engaged in solving the question. Okay. Okay, let's get more people to click on still solving. It's just about less than half of the class. I understand, I haven't as yet shown this question. All right, let's go now. Go ahead. All right, last 5 seconds, last 10 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. Now, this was a rather easy question, as I said earlier. Almost everyone got the question correct. Choice D is the correct answer. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to walk you through how I solve any sentence correction question, regardless of the difficulty level of the question, regardless of the context of the question. Okay. So the first thing that I do is I read the sentence and understand its meaning. Samuel has decided to allocate more time for his GMAT prep. Okay, so there's some guy who's decided to put in more time towards his GMAT prep, even though tells me that there is a contrast here, even though he getting additional responsibilities at work. So yeah, so basically this person is getting more responsibilities at work, which means he's going to be busy at work, but still he has decided to spend more time on his GMAT prep. So we do understand the contrast here. You know, it's something, the context is something which is very clear. Now, in this sentence, understanding the meaning of the sentence was very straightforward. And why would you say that? What are the 2 reasons why understanding the meaning of this sentence was so straightforward? Type in over here in the answer piles question pod. There are 2 reasons why understanding the meaning was so easy. Easy vocabulary. Okay, no, I still haven't gotten the precise, not that complex structure, absolutely. What else? There is one more thing over here. The language and structuring is straightforward. Relatable, absolutely right. Relatable was what I was looking at. Was relatable. So the 2 main reasons are the language and the structure of the sentence is very simple. The second thing is the context is very relatable to us. This is the context that we live through, right? So, and that's the reason why understanding the meaning of the sentence was relatively straightforward. Okay. Now let's take a look at the errors that are there in this sentence. And again, it's very clear that when you read the sentence, you can tell that, okay, there is something not quite right with it, and the problem here is that the verb, even though he getting additional responsibilities, getting is not a verb, and that's the reason why this sentence is wrong. So we need to now correct this error, and for that we're going to take a look at the answer choices. So choice A is wrong because of this grammatical error. There is no verb for the subject he. Second choice, choice B. What is wrong with choice B? Why did you reject choice B? There is no contrast. Absolutely right. The contrast is gone. Otherwise, there is no grammatical error in this choice. Okay. The only problem with this choice is that you need to infer the contrast. The contrast is not explicitly stated the manner in which the author explicitly stated the contrast in the original choice. Okay. Other than that, with regards to the grammar, there is nothing wrong with this sentence. Okay, so what you can say is that there is a distortion in meaning. Why? Because the contrast is not explicitly stated. You need to read the two independent things and you need to infer, oh yeah, there is this contrast, right? So that's the reason why this choice is wrong. Okay. Choice C is absolutely nonsensical because of the timing relationship that has been implemented, right? Choice D is absolutely correct. But what is special about choice D? So how would you compare the sentence structure of choice D with the sentence structure of choice A? First of all, has the sentence structure changed? Yes or no? Is the sentence structure different in choice A versus in choice D? Yes. And how is it different? There are no two clauses here. Okay. In the first choice, there were two clauses, there were two subject-verb pairs, and that was the error because the subject he cannot really use the verb. Getting is not the verb. However, in choice D, the subject has been removed and the sentence structure has changed here, right? So really the key thing to notice over here is you can express the same meaning utilizing a different structure altogether. Okay? Is everyone clear with this point? That you can communicate the same meaning but utilizing a different sentence structure. Okay? Now choice E is wrong because again there's no contrast and then the two facts have been linked with a causal relationship and that's absolutely nonsensical. Okay? So the whole point of showing this question is for you to understand. This is a simple question, context is very straightforward, language is very simple, but the whole point of showing this question is that you understand that meaning can be distorted in multiple ways. Okay, you can institute a timing relationship, you can institute a causal relationship, you can take away the contrast that was there and simply state a couple of facts, right? And that's why it is so very important to understand what is the meaning that the author wants to communicate through the original sentence, because that's the meaning that you need to be able to communicate through the correct sentence. Okay? The other thing that we learned over here was that you can communicate same meaning utilizing a completely different sentence structure. Okay? So while you keep these things in mind, let's now apply these learnings on a different question. And this is an official question which you'll see, again, as you see the question, you will be able to see the similarities between the previous question and this official question. Okay? So let's get to question number 2 here. Let's click on still solving. And as you're solving this question, I want you to explicitly just read question choice A, that is the original sentence. Don't move on to the answer choices till the time you haven't completely understood choice A. Okay? I don't care about the time that you take to solve the question. Alright? Okay, let's go ahead. All right, last 10 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. So the correct choice is choice B, and you can tell that the number of people who got this question correct has reduced from the number of people who got the question wrong is less than the number of people who got the question correct for the previous one. And again, you can tell that as the questions get a little bit more tricky, the accuracy goes down. Now, how many of you were able to identify similarities between question number 1 and this question? And if yes, what is the similarity here? Both have contrast. What else? Look at the manner in which the okay. So I'll go through this. So I'll go through the solution, and then you'll be able to figure out further similarities between the two. Okay, but would you agree that this question was more difficult than the previous question? Did you feel that there was that sense that you had to apply a little bit more, you had to be more conscious of what you're reading, you had to struggle a little bit more? Absolutely. Okay. All right. Now, the reason for that is that the sentence structure is a bit complicated. It is a bit more complicated than the previous one, and the context is not really something that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? So, but again, that's where you need to focus a whole lot more on learning the techniques to understand the meaning of the sentence. Okay. All right. So let's get going. So the technique that I always use to read any sentence, regardless of whether it's a sentence correction sentence or whether it's a sentence in reading comprehension or whether I'm simply reading an article on New York Times or Economist, is I always break down the sentence into smaller chunks. Okay, so let's read. Next month, state wildlife officials are scheduled to take over the job of increasing the wolf population. So I'm going to pause here. Okay, yes, the sentence is not ended, but I'm just going to pause here because I want to just keep in my mind and understand so I want to visualize what this is. So essentially what the author is saying is that there's something that's going to happen next month. What is it? That these officials, they will be taking over the job of doing something, of doing what? Of increasing the wolf population. Okay, so far so good. And what is the job? The job is to increase the wolf population where? In this federally designated recovery area. So this is the specified area. Okay. Then there is a comma, so that's a natural pause point. The number of which will, however, so that there is a contrast. So the number of something, I don't know what this something is right now, will, however, there is a contrast, ultimately be dictated by the number of prey in the area. Okay. So the author is talking about that, okay, there's a contrast here, clearly, right? And what is that? That the number of which, now what could this which be? This which is really, we are talking about increasing the wolf population. So it's very obvious that this which is nothing but the number of wolves. Okay, so the number of wolves will ultimately be dictated by the number of prey. So really how much amount of food is there in this area, that is what is going to govern how many wolves will survive. Okay, so that's what the contrast is. So the contrast is, yes, next month these officials will become responsible for increasing the wolf population, but really speaking, nothing is in their hands because ultimately the number of wolves will be governed by the number of prey that exist in the area. Okay, so now we take a look at what are the various errors in this sentence. So if you think about it, as you read the sentence, the subject verb pairs appear to be okay. I mean, you didn't feel that, okay, you don't know what the verb is, you don't know what the subject is. really the problem that was there in terms of tenses also, the sentence looked okay, right? But where the problem arose was that you had to struggle a little bit to understand what this which is. How many of you had to struggle a little bit to understand what the reference of which is? Absolutely. Now these are the points where when you are reading the sentence slowly and when you're reading the sentence to understand its meaning, you will automatically, this is really a clue, when you're stuck a little bit, that's where there is that likelihood of an error to exist. Okay, so and you were stuck over here, right? Number of which, and you had to actually make that connection that okay, we're talking about increasing wolf population, so this which should definitely refer to wolf, right? And that's where the issue is, that which is logically it refers to wolf, right, from the meaning aspect. However, over here, which cannot refer to wolves. Why? Because wolf is not used as a noun here. So that's a grammatical concept that you need to know. Wolf has been used as an adjective. Okay. So if you think about it, what you're doing here is you are focusing on the meaning, utilizing the meaning. You've made the linkage that which refers to wolf from the logic aspect of it, right? But when you link it grammatically, you understand that okay, which cannot refer to wolf because wolf is an adjective. Why is it an adjective? Because it's describing the word population. So that is the error in this sentence. Okay, and that's how you actually combine the meaning-based approach with the grammar. That is how the meaning-based approach works. Is this point clear? So if you notice, once you understand the roles played by each entity, okay, the error analysis becomes very easy. Step 1 and step 2. Step 1 where you understand the meaning, step 2 where you identify the errors, almost become one big step. Okay, and the manner in which they become one big step is that you have to read slowly with the goal to understand the significance of each and every entity in the sentence. How many of you today read in this manner? So less than about half of the class is saying that you read in this manner. Okay, good. I want everyone to start reading in this manner. Okay, that's when you start reading in this manner, that's when sentence correction becomes more about logic than about grammar. Okay, again, I'm not saying grammar is not important. It is grammar that tells you the rules of the language. Okay, but the focus of grammar is on making sure that the author is able to, or the speaker is able to communicate his or her point, right? So that's the intent, and that's the intent by which you need to apply grammar as well. Okay? Alright, so now let's come to the answer choices here. So choice A is wrong. So there were quite a few of you who selected choice A, about 14 of you. So now you understand why choice A is wrong. Let's take a look at choice B. Choice B is absolutely correct. The size of the population. Now look at what's happening over here. Over here, the author has now removed the wolf, the pronoun which altogether, and now he's referring to the wolf population by saying the size of the population. Which population? The wolf population. Okay, so this sentence is absolutely correct. Now let's take a look at choice C. What's happening in choice C? Tell me. When is used for time? Absolutely right. So in this case, there is that 5 of you selected choice C, but this is absolutely nonsensical because there is no real linkage of the two facts utilizing. There's no timing relationship here, right? Choice D is incorrect because it has the same error as before, as in choice A, the number of which. Okay, 27 of you selected this choice, so that's not right. Choice E is wrong, but the size of the population ultimately be dictated. So first of all, there is this connection issue over here. You can't, the second thing is that the incorrect verb form, be dictated, is not the correct verb form. Okay. All right. So the key thing over here is that you understand the meaning of if you focus on the meaning of the sentence, you will not struggle when you see the answer choices that may not have that extent of glaring grammatical errors. But if the choices have logical shifts in meaning, you will be able to identify those logical shifts because you understand what it is that the original choice intended to communicate. Now at this point in time, it's important to understand how the other successful students have actually utilized this strategy. Here's an example of one of the many students who benefited from this razor-sharp focus on meaning. Before using the meaning approach, Nishant struggled to finish verbal section on time. This was despite knowing all the SC rules. But once Nishant embraced this approach, he realized that he was naturally able to solve SC questions with a high accuracy in 45 seconds or fewer. Nishant was admitted into Ohio Fisher with full fellowship, even though he applied very late in the process, almost in round 3. And the reason I love this story is because here is a guy who was stuck at 570 and was wondering whether he would even be able to get into a B school. And in the end, with all of his hard work and that razor-sharp focus, he was not only able to get into a B school that's ranked highly in operations management, but was also able to secure a full ride. Now, Nishant has also written an amazing debrief on GMAT Club. In just 1 week, this debrief became the most appreciated success story of 2018. And in his debrief, he further outlines how he imbibed and learned various core skills to improve from V27 to V41, which is 94 percentile. When I shifted from classroom/self-study coaching preparation to e-GMAT, the focus on solving problems by understanding meaning of sentence was time-consuming. But soon I picked up the trick and was able to solve SC questions in 45 seconds. Now this is another success story of an individual who sets very high standards for herself. Samya works at McKinsey. She's been a topper all her life, yet she struggled to score that 760. She really struggled with sentence correction. She just could not figure out why in some SC questions certain answer choices were incorrect and how to arrive at a correct choice in a definitive manner. Because of this, her score was stuck in the low 700s. She realized that she needed to take a look at SC in a completely different light. It was then she discovered the focus on meaning through this very webinar. And once Samya enhanced her approach, she realized that she could get to the correct answer in a definitive manner by focusing on meaning. It is this confidence that propped her score to 780 with a better than 99 percentile on GMAT Verbal. Alright, so are you guys ready for another question on which you apply this meaning-based approach and you pause slowly, you read the sentence to understand its meaning. Okay. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention earlier was that any question that you have with regards to the question that we are discussing on the screen that I am not able to take because it kind of disrupts the flow of the session, because other people may not have those doubts, please put those questions in the Q&A pod so that Shraddha, our sentence correction expert, can address that question. Okay. I don't want your questions to go unanswered, but I do apologize that I may not be able to take all the specific questions because, you know, I need to cater to these many students in this session. Thank you for your understanding. All right, so now let's get going with this next question. And first, I'd want you to click on Still Solving. But before I do that, let me hear something from you. How's the session going for you? I've been talking since the last almost 1 hour. Interesting. Okay, good. What have you learned so far? Good. Value of meaning, good, very nice. It's a new way to look at SC, very nice. Good. Stay calm and understand the meaning of the sentence. Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. It really means a lot to me that you are getting what it is that I intended for you to get at from this, to arrive at from this session. That I need to spend some more time on choice A. Never heard of this before, we'll give it a trial. Good, very nice. I'm really happy that you are open-minded towards that. Okay, thank you very much. This really helps. So let's come back to our next question here. Let's click on still solving. All right, here you go. Last 10 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. So the correct answer here is choice B, which about 57% of the class selected. Now, we will talk about, let me just bring back the poll here. Okay, Adobe is acting a bit weird here, so give me 1 second. Okay. Create a new poll here. Just give me 1 second here. So, so in this question, okay, let me just create this poll. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So tell me one thing. How many of you were certain about the choice that you are selecting? That is, once you honed in to the correct choice, you were absolutely confident. How many of you? Okay. So about less than half of the class, or less than half of you who selected. Okay. Now this is another evidence that you are not applying the process in the right manner. Okay. And again, I don't expect all of you to be able to start applying the process without any issues right off the bat. But as you get into solving questions, right, I want you to be very cognizant of these signs, whether you are, so if you apply the process, right, and when you're learning the process, it's very important to know how well have you imbibed the process so far. Right, so it doesn't matter what the difficulty level of the question is. It doesn't matter whether you get to the right answer or not. Yes, that matters towards the end, right? But frankly, when you're solving the question, if you feel that after reading the sentence, and after reading the choices, you really have to keep going back and forth between let's say 2 choices. Many of you tell me that I'm able to eliminate the 3 choices, but I'm really stuck at the 2 choices, and you give yourself credit for eliminating the 3 choices. How many of you give yourself credit to eliminating 3 choices? Yeah, don't do that, because again, the questions are designed in such a manner that usually you are down to 2 choices or maybe 3 choices. You can eliminate 2 or 3 choices depending upon the difficulty level of the question. This question was definitely a 700 level question. The previous question, the Wolf question, was about 650 level, and the one before that was, I don't even believe you'll be asked such an easy question on the test, because the context is not going to be that easy. Okay, so again, I will get to this to the solution of this question, but I want to make sure that you understand that when you are preparing, utilizing this process, when you're learning the process, I want you to be aware of these telltale signs that, okay, when you have applied the process, when you get to the choices, if you are still confused between one choice and another choice, that's an indication that you need to fix the process somewhere. Maybe you didn't understand the meaning well enough. Maybe you didn't understand the role played by each and every entity well enough. Usually it boils down to that. Okay, so let's do that over here, and we'll see why is it that you were not able to understand this part, or why is it that you were confused between choices. Now, I see one response: have to review all the options. Absolutely, yes, you need to review each and every option before you mark the correct choice. But my question over here was that after reviewing the choices, if you feel, oh, B seems right, but I think E also could be right, let me change that to E. Oh, no, let me bring it back to C. So again, those kinds of things should not happen. And I see that there was one student who was confused between B and C, confusion with choice E as well, right? Okay. So for those of you for whom meaning-based approach helped a lot, that's really very good. I'm very happy about that. Okay, so now let's start reading the sentence, and I am going to again break down the sentence into smaller parts. Because diegetic music actively referenced in the film rather than confined to the background, I'm going to just pause here. I could have paused here as well because comma is a very natural pause point. Because diegetic music, it means that the sentence has a causal relationship here. Okay, and what is it about? It's about diegetic music. Let's shorten it up as DM. Because diegetic music actively referenced in the film rather than confined to the background. Now, this part, what does this part do? Actively referenced in the film rather than confined to the background. What is the role of this part? It modifies what? Modifies DM. It provides additional information about diegetic music. Absolutely. Okay. So, and what is it telling? It's saying that diegetic music is actively utilized in the film or actively called to in the film rather than simply sticking in the background. Okay, so it's just telling how DM is used in the film. Okay, invoking a sense of verisimilitude, comma. Now, invoking a sense of verisimilitude, what is the role of this part? It is again giving additional information about diegetic music, right? Now, invoking a sense of verisimilitude, how many of you knew the meaning of verisimilitude before you read this sentence? Okay, but again, you didn't really have to worry about that. Why? Because the sentence, the author presents the meaning of verisimilitude right after. The idea that art can express a truthful version of reality. So, invoking a DM has that, it invokes the sense of verisimilitude. What is that? What is verisimilitude? It's the idea that you can utilize art to present truthful version of reality, right? So, it's not, yeah. Comma, filmmakers creating period dramas use it often. Okay. Now, how many of you felt a bit of a jump while reading this sentence? Absolutely. And again, this is where when you're reading the sentence and if it's not following proper grammatical structure and if you're focusing on the meaning, it would automatically jump out to you that, oh my goodness, something is not quite right here, right? And that's the power of the meaning-based approach, right? You're able to identify grammatical errors because something doesn't feel right, something doesn't seem to be right, okay? And that's the problem over here, that you were reading about these characteristics of diegetic music, how it is used and what it ends up doing, and then all of a sudden filmmakers jumped in, okay, filmmakers. But again, whenever you feel that, it's okay, just mark that up in your mind that there is something, there is a big jump here, and then but you continue reading the sentence, reading that part to understand what it communicates, okay? Filmmakers creating period dramas. Filmmakers, what kind of filmmakers? Who create these historical dramas, use it often. Use what often? What does it refer to? Use what often? Diegetic music. Absolutely right. Diegetic music. Again, that's from the logic aspect of it, that it refers to diegetic music. Now, you put it all together, right? The sentence is about DM. It describes how it is used. It then also says what it ends up doing. And then there's some information about the filmmakers, that filmmakers use it often. Okay. Now, do we know after reading the sentence, the manner in which the sentence is constructed? We don't know what the effect is. We don't know how does the filmmaker fact link to diegetic music, right? So that is where the error, that's how we identify that there is an error, right? We've understood the various parts of the sentence, but we also know that the meaning of the sentence as a whole is not really complete, okay? So what do we do next? What do we do next here? when you experience such a scenario, what is it that you do next? We infer the logical meaning. We don't just jump over to the answer choices. We first infer what could be the logical meaning. Okay? Yes, definitely choice A can be eliminated, but before we move forward, we have to infer what the logical meaning is, right? Now here, what you have to do is you have to see what makes sense, what needs to be changed here. Clearly, if you change invoking to invokes, that is going to fix the sentence. Okay? Why? Because it's going to give you the verb for diegetic music, right? And it's also going to say, okay, because diegetic music ends up creating that sense that art can express truthful version of reality, that is why filmmakers who create historical dramas, because they have to utilize something to give that to give the sense of reality, that's why these filmmakers use diegetic music. Okay? So frankly, the only error in this sentence was the subject verb error, one of the simplest errors that exists. But despite that, this question, the accuracy for this question was low. So again, that just goes to say that an error can be simple. Okay. However, it's the manner in which that error has been instituted. It's the sentence structure of the sentence. It's the vocabulary of the sentence. It's the context of the sentence that makes the question difficult. Okay, it's how the answer choices have been constructed that makes the question difficult. Okay. All right, so now let's take a look at the answer choices over here. Now, if you take a look at just choice B is correct. Okay. So what is special about, so we'll come to choice B. First, let's talk about choice C, because I'm sure people who didn't select choice B would be wondering why the choice that they selected is incorrect. Now, if you look at choice C, grammatically choice C is absolutely fine. Okay. However, it's wrong because the information about how it is used has been linked with filmmakers, why it is used. Okay, because again, filmmakers use diegetic music because diegetic music invokes a sense of verisimilitude. Again, that makes logical sense. They don't use diegetic music because of the manner in which it is used. Okay, and that is why choice C is incorrect. So choice C has an illogical meaning because the causal relationship does not make sense. Okay, let's take a look at choice D. Choice D is wrong. Actually, it has grammatical error in it because the verb for filmmakers is missing. And again, the causal relationship does not make sense. So it has both the errors of, so it has the same error as in choice C. Now, choice E is incorrect because there is no causal relationship now. Okay. And again, it's very important to notice such shifts in meaning because there may be grammatical errors as well in incorrect choices, but those grammatical errors could be a lot more nuanced, right? So it's not really worth your time to identify those nuanced grammatical errors when there are these definite shifts in the logical meaning of the choice. Okay, so definitely be on the lookout of these high-level, more deterministic errors. Okay, yeah. So I apologize that the screen is a little cut off. The only error in choice E is that and has been used instead of because. Okay. Now, pronoun error in choice C, not really. There is no pronoun error because it is actively referenced. What is a pronoun error in choice C? Please elaborate on it. In choice A, no, there is no pronoun error in choice A. What is a pronoun error? It clearly refers to diegetic music. Isn't which in option C ambiguous? Not really. Diegetic music, which refers to diegetic music. How is it ambiguous? in C it can refer to verisimilitude as well. How? No, 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 it cannot. Why? Which invokes a sense of verisimilitude, which is placed over here. So it has to refer to the preceding noun, which is diegetic music. Verisimilitude comes at the back. Now, if you're saying it can refer to verisimilitude, it doesn't make sense at all. It can be used for idea or art. No, 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 it cannot be. And again, just because there are multiple nouns before a pronoun doesn't mean that it can that it's ambiguous. Okay, so again, go through the pronoun section in the course, pronouns module in the course, and you will understand that. The same way, in choice A, just because there is idea, there is art, there is what else? Verisimilitude, there is background, doesn't mean that it is ambiguous. That's why you have to focus on the logic of the sentence. Okay? Alright, so now let's take a look at choice B. I'm going to focus on choice B and let's pose certain questions with regards to choice B. What is the first thing that that comes about in choice B in terms of the sentence structure? In terms of the sentence structure, and I want you to compare the sentence structure of choice B and the sentence structure of choice A. Are they similar? Yes or no? Are the sentence structures of choice A and B similar? No, they're very different. They're very different. Now, how many of you are actually scared of reading of SC questions in which the entire sentence is underlined? How many of you feel that an SC question in which the entire sentence is underlined is more difficult than an SC question in which just a portion is underlined? Right. Now again, there is nothing that, there are no stats available that indicate, and we have reviewed each and every official question that's out there. There's nothing that tells that a completely underlined sentence is more difficult than a partially underlined sentence. In fact, we have data for all of our questions and we routinely utilize that data. We analyze that data to see, okay, what kind of questions are more difficult. But there is no linkage between a completely underlined sentence or with the difficulty level of the question. In fact, if you think about it, if you are focusing on reading the meaning of understanding the meaning of the sentence by breaking it down into smaller chunks, what you can do is, if you notice over here, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this sentence here, actively reference in the film rather than confined to the background. This is one part. Diegetic music is often used by filmmakers to create period dramas. This is second part. Because it invokes a sense of verisimilitude. This is third part. The idea that art can express truthful version of reality. This is fourth part. Total 4 parts. These 4 parts also exist in the original choice. All the author does is identify these different parts and then moves them around as needed, as without either by putting in the errors or by removing the errors. So you can move these 4 parts in any way as long within the constructs of the English grammar, and you can still communicate the same meaning as the other sentence. That is what we saw in the first question as well, that you can have multiple ways of expressing the same meaning, multiple structures that express the same meaning. And I want you to be cognizant of that. Just because a sentence has a different looking sentence structure, I don't want you to reject it off the bat. So knowing this aspect is very, very critical. And again, focusing on, because you are focusing on strategically pausing and understanding the meaning, what you can now do is once you are done understanding the meaning of choice A, now when you analyze the other choices, you don't have to focus on the details of each and every part of that entity. You can simply consider these blocks of sentences, these 4 blocks in this question, and you can see how they are how they've been arranged. Okay, does this make sense? Good. All right, so again, the first learning that we had from this question is that even though the meaning was not clear, we paused and we inferred the meaning before we moved on to the answer choices. Okay. Error analysis step. was almost non-existent. Okay, why? Because if you do meaning analysis really well, error analysis all happens almost at the same time. Okay, now initially you may feel that you have to do these two steps independently or one after another, not independently, consecutively. It's okay, right? That's why we say that it's a 3-step process. We don't say it's a 2-step process. The whole point of this is, what I'm trying to tell you is that once you master the process, it will, as you are reading the sentence to understand the meaning, the errors are going to jump out at you. Okay, that is going to happen intuitively. But when you are learning the process, I want you to keep those two things as separate. Okay, but if as you're reading the sentence, you identify, you come across these clues wherein you identify, okay, there's something not quite right with that, pinpoint that, make a note of that in your scratch pad. When you move to your next step of error analysis, at that time elaborate on it a little bit more. Okay. The other thing was that we analyzed each and every choice and we rejected each incorrect choice on solid grounds. Very, very important. And another thing that I'd like to tell you is, notice how little we spoke about grammar rules. I mean, again, I'm not saying grammar is not important. Once again, grammar is important, because that's what gives you because grammar is a tool to communicate meaning. You need to know the constructs that are allowed in the language to communicate the meaning. But the key thing over here is it's the means to the end. Okay, and the end being communicating the meaning. So where people falter is when they let grammar become the end. Don't let that happen. Okay, again, after the session, definitely go through these 2 slides because these are really very, very important. So I want you to learn grammar rules so that you know how English language is used to express meaning. The key thing is express meaning, okay, because understanding meaning is the key. Now at this point, let's understand why is it that people falter in sentence correction. The first and the foremost reason is they don't spend enough time on choice A to understand the meaning. They don't find a solid basis of finding the correct answer. They get anxious and they start looking at choices to find clues. Okay, they do significant back and forth among choices. They get confused and they make mistakes that could have very well been avoided. How many of you have gone through this thought flow while solving SC questions? Now all of this can be avoided, should be avoided by following the optimum approach for SC. And what is that? You read the sentence to understand its meaning. You understand the roles played by each entity. And if you think about it, the whole strategic pausing method that we utilize, okay, that we teach in Master Comprehension course, and I'll talk more about that as I put together the plan of action for you. You need to understand the roles played by each entity. Okay, you then identify major errors in choice A, not those minor non-deterministic errors, no, very deterministic errors, things that really stand out. And this becomes really easy if you understand the meaning in the right manner. And then you analyze each choice in the light of the analysis that you did on choice A. Okay, when I say choice A, I mean the original sentence. Okay, if you are reading the original sentence, you are automatically looking at choice A. Okay, so really speaking, the first 2 steps are done on the original sentence. Okay, the last step is done on done on choices B, C, D, and E. Okay, this is the reason why we say that you should spend approximately 60% of your time on the original sentence, on choice A, to understand its meaning and to understand the errors. Okay. So now how do you get to that 45 to 60 seconds per question while following this approach? You must be thinking about that, right? Why isn't, how many of you have this question in your head, but you know, pausing, reading slowly, isn't that going to increase the time to answer questions? Absolutely, it will, right? But I also know this, and I have proven facts that this is what leads you to get to that 90 percentile ability in SC. So how do I bridge the gap now, right? I'm saying that it is going to take longer. At the same time, I'm saying it is needed and it has proven to be successful, right? So the way to bridge that gap is, or to way to resolve this paradox is that really initially when you use the process, it is going to take you longer. That goes without saying, okay? However, if you are learning the process in the right manner, using the right tools, you will get to solving SC questions in fewer than 60 seconds. You saw in the case of Nishant, you saw in the case of Samya, right? Now, how do you do that, right? What is the right way of preparing? The first thing is you need to learn how to read a sentence, okay? We need to teach you that. You need to learn that, okay? I don't expect that if I tell you right now that the next question that you solve, you should be able to apply this process and solve the question correctly in under 60 seconds. I can't expect you to do that. That's absolutely wrong. Okay, but what I do expect you to do is that you take the process that I'm teaching you right now, you take the things that are, you take from the session the things that are important, and you spend the time in building your skill. Okay, another thing very important is you need to have the knowledge of these various sentence structures. Okay, if you notice, we have been talking about sentence structure quite a bit in this session. Okay, so for this, what you need to do, how do you do that, right? You need to study methodically and you need to learn the effective way to read the sentence, and that is what we teach you in Master Comprehension course. Okay, in this course we teach you how do you read the sentence so that you understand the meaning in the first read itself. Okay, very, very important. Once you go through Master Comprehension course and once you learn how to read the sentence slowly to understand its meaning, that's when you start to now learn the grammar rules so that you can actively apply them, right? For example, you need to know how do pronouns work, right? There are certain misconceptions in the minds of students. Those misconceptions need to be taken care of, okay? How do you know what are the acceptable uses of verb ing words? I mean, these are grammatical constructs that you absolutely need to know. What is the difference between like versus as? How can a list just still be parallel when it doesn't look parallel? Right? So those are the things that you need to learn, and those are the things that you actually do learn in the SC course, and we'll talk more about it after we finish our last question. Okay? So what I'll do is, these are the things that you need to learn. How do you learn that? Using these courses. What should you focus on in these courses is what I'll teach, is what I'll put together when I give you the plan of action to master sentence correction. Okay, so let's try out this last question, and this one is a sorry about that, I don't know where these slides are coming from. Let me just fast forward these. Some of these must have gotten copied from the previous section. All right, there you go. Got to the right question finally. Let's click on still solving, please. Okay. Last 30 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. Okay, so the correct answer here is choice C, and less than 50% of the class was able to get to this. Okay. So let's solve this question, and this is definitely a 700 level question. So it is a difficult one. So let's understand the meaning of this sentence. Delivery drones, unlike conventional modes of transport. So this sentence is talking about delivery drones, DD, and it's giving a contrast here that it's not like the typical modes of transportation. Ship goods, so DD ship goods without becoming carbon intensive. So they don't become carbon intensive. They ship goods and they do so without becoming carbon intensive. What does carbon intensive mean? That they don't release as much carbon out. With their ability to run on batteries. Now tell me, what is the significance of with their ability to run on batteries? What is this telling me? What is the role? Absolutely, because of their ability. It's giving the reason why they don't become carbon intensive. Shows why they do not become carbon intensive. Why? Because they have because of their ability to run on batteries. Okay. Efficiently covering short distances. Now, what efficiently cover short distances? The delivery drones. However, there is a contrast here now. Their inability to cover long distances, now because they are not able to cover long distances, right, because they run on batteries, may hinder their popularity in transportation industry. Okay, because they are not able to cover long distances, this may hinder their progress in the transportation industry. Okay, so really if you were to put it all together, there are two facts here. One fact is a positive fact, the other one is a negative fact. What is the positive feature? The positive feature is that they can cover short distances and they leave less of a carbon footprint. How do they do that? Because they run on batteries. But the other fact, which is a negative fact, is that because they cannot cover long distances, they may not get popular. Okay. So if you think about it, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Even though only a small part of the sentence was underlined, we analyzed the entire sentence without paying any special attention to the underlined portion. For us, the entire sentence is important when we are understanding the meaning of the sentence. It doesn't matter what part is underlined. It doesn't matter what part is not underlined. Okay. However, when we move on to doing the grammatical analysis, the error analysis, what we can do is we can pay more close attention to the underlined portion. Okay, because we know that the errors would exist in that underlined portion itself, right? Only. But we should not lose sight of the non-underlined portion because we still need to take it from the meaning perspective. Okay. For example, if the underlined portion doesn't have any subject verb, right, then you know you don't have to worry about the subject verb errors. Now in this case, it does have a verb, ship. So we will need to think about that as well. Okay. Now when you read this sentence, really the only error that from subject verb standpoint, it's okay, right? There are no pronouns here, so that's fine. Verb tense, it looks absolutely okay. Delivery drones ship goods is stating a fact. Modifier, I think that's where the problem is. You can either term it under modifier or you can term it in another category. This is where with their ability to run on batteries is not the right construct here. Okay, this part explains why
they don't become carbon intensive, so we need to use appropriate expression, and that expression is the word because over here. Okay, but other than that, everything else in this sentence appears to be okay. Okay, so let's now move to our answer choice analysis. Let's take a look at choice B. Ship goods without becoming carbon intensive running on batteries. Now this is wrong because verb ing phrase over here, running on batteries, is now presenting the result instead of presenting the y, and that's not right. Okay, ship goods without becoming carbon intensive because they run on batteries and thus efficiently cover. Now again, two different sentence structures. In the original sentence you had verb ing word covering. Over here what you have is thus efficiently cover, so thus cover is same as covering. Okay, and that's why this choice is correct. Okay, again, two different constructions communicating the same meaning. Okay, choice D, which was selected by quite a few of you, can ship goods. Now that's wrong. Why? Because can is now making it as an ability, that the DD has the ability to ship goods, whereas what the author intended to say was that the DD actually ship goods. Well, that's a fact. Okay, it's not that they have the ability to ship goods. As they run on batteries, again, absolutely correct. To efficiently cover, they don't run on batteries with the intent to efficiently cover. Okay, they run on batteries and they end up efficiently covering. So again, the intent word here too is not correct. Choice E is absolutely wrong. May ship goods. Again, there is no possibility here, and again, due to incorrect usage, it's not clear what the purpose of the word covering is. Okay. So again, the whole thing over here is, if you understand what it is that the original choice intends to communicate, you can very well go through the answer choices, each answer choice, and reject each answer choice on solid grounds and select the correct answer. So at a very high level, focus on understanding meaning of choice A. Spend more than half of your time on the original sentence or on choice B. Okay. Understand the roles played by each entity. It helps a lot with error analysis. Okay. Even a small part of the sentence is underlined, read the entire sentence, understand the entire sentence. And last but definitely not the least, grammar is just the means to the end being understanding the meaning. Okay. So now we come to the last part of this session. How do you get to 90th percentile ability in SC? Okay. There are three very important things. The first one is, how do you read effectively? As we spoke about, and I'll talk about that in detail, you utilize master comprehension course. Second one is, you master all of grammar rules, and for that you have the SC course. Third is, you evaluate and iterate. You won't be able to get to that 90th percentile ability right after finishing the course. No, you need to evaluate, you need to iterate, and for that you have Scholaranium. So we have specialized tools for each and every purpose here. So let's take a look at Master Comprehension course. So Master Comprehension course teaches you how to read such long sentences. First we teach you what are the building blocks of a sentence. What are those key things that absolutely need to be there in the sentence. And then we teach you how do you take a small sentence and you may form a long sentence out of it. Okay, because that's what you're going to see. You're not going to see just the building blocks of the sentence. You are going to see a pretty long sentence with a lot of additional information. So how is that connection made, right? And then how do you deconstruct those long sentences? Okay, so essentially we are teaching you through this Master Comprehension course, we are teaching you how does the author create long sentences and how you can utilize those techniques to understand the meaning of those sentences. So that's what we are teaching you. Okay. You then go on to basically fine-tune those skills through the pause points module. When you're reading the long sentence, we teach you where to pause and make sure that you spend your time comprehending. We call these strategic points as pause points. So really, in fewer than 2 hours, you can go from a flat reader to someone who reads with purpose. So this is no trick. I mean, we're simply teaching you how long sentences are formed. And it's not just impactful for non-natives, that is people who haven't studied in US, Canada, and Australia. It also helps natives become a lot more purposeful readers. Marcos, a native speaker who benefited tremendously from Master Comprehension course, told us that, because he was a native speaker, he was able to understand most of GMAT sentences, but because of the extremely formal nature of the language, comprehending what he read took a lot of time. But once he went through the Master Comprehension course, he understood the role played by each snippet of the sentence, experiencing an amazing improvement in his reading speed. And this improvement had a huge impact on his SC and RC ability. So, after doing the first thing, which is Master Comprehension, you then personalize your learning through the e-GMAT SC course. Okay, now let's talk about how can you do that. So how do our students achieve perfection? They do this using the 3 pillars of the e-GMAT course offering. The first one is process. This is where your conceptual learning and your application piece takes place. We've spent upwards of 40,000 hours, which is the same as 20 man-years, perfecting this, making sure that we teach you each and every concept in a precise manner, in a crisp manner, and that our approach is consistent and it works on every question. Okay, so you learn the grammatical concepts, you learn the application through the application files. Now, just teaching these approaches is not enough. We ensure that students actually learn, and that's where the feedback that we provide comes in. We've built special technology in our video files, as I told you earlier, to make sure that these files provide feedback with every concept file and every application file. Now, how advanced is this technology? Even though our competitors have a few video files, none of them provide this feedback, as you noticed in the beginning. And I'm talking about people such as Kaplan, Veritas, and Manhattan, companies that have the resources to do so. Now, why did they not do this? Because they don't believe in personalization through technology. They would rather sell you private tutoring at $200 an hour or even more than that. Similarly, through Scholaranium, we've built ability quizzes that give you precise estimate of what your percentile score is. Okay. So personalization, let's talk about that. As I said, no one gets to 90 percentile in the first go. To get there, you need to isolate and focus on the areas in which you need effort, and you need to relentlessly improve on those. Essentially, a student carves his or her own unique journey to ace the GMAT, and that's where the insights from the skill data section comes about. Okay, so let's talk about what kind of insights can you get. Okay, so I'm going to show you these 3 pillars in action utilizing the verbs module, and this is a very, very important section. So especially for all the e-GMAT students, you need to understand what all you need to pay attention to as you're going through the course. Now, this is the screenshot from just the verbs module, and notice how comprehensive it is. And remember, there are 10 such modules in the entire SC course. So let's see how this module gives you feedback that is personalized to you. The first 3 files teach you the foundation concepts in verbs and tenses, so everything from simple present tense to future perfect tense is taught here. Each concept file has specialized quizzes that give you feedback that is personalized to you. Okay. Now, once you learn these concepts, we teach you how to apply these concepts utilizing the application block here. Again, over here as well, we evaluate your ability to apply the process, and we give you feedback that is personalized to you. Okay. Then we teach you the next set of concepts, and the same process repeats with evaluation and personalized feedback at every step. Okay. Now, this feedback that you get every 15 minutes of your learning makes learning 5 times more impactful than learning simply from books, and is much more effective than learning from other video courses which don't provide any feedback at all. This level of personalization is possible because of a confluence of technology and teaching methodology. Okay, so let's see what kind of insights will you be able to get from such a dashboard. The first thing over here that you notice is that this student did not do well in the practice quiz, in the last practice quiz in this block. 60% is definitely a low score. So what is causing this low score? Quite clearly, as you can see, the student has some issues with the conceptual understanding. Okay. Now, he scored 67% in verb sequencing file, which tells me that he has those conceptual gaps which are only going to get which are only going to get more elaborate when he comes into the application block, and that's what is evident over here. He has issues in conceptuals. He has certain conceptual gaps, and he's not able to apply the process as well. And if you take a look at his score in conditional verb, those are some more additional concepts, and that's also where he hasn't been performing well. Okay, so if you take a look at the inputs that led to his 60% or score in total in verbs practice file, you can tell this wasn't any surprise. It wasn't, oh my goodness, how come I got 60%? No. What is important is for you to get this feedback and incorporate this feedback as you are going through the course here. Okay, so now what this student needs to do is revise verb sequencing here, go through the application file again to make sure that he understands how to solve each and every question, and then revise conditional verb here. Okay, so what you can see is, I want you to take a moment to realize the implication of this. This student knows exactly how he needs to prepare so as to do really well in verbs. Okay, and just by focusing on these three things, he can improve from his 60 percentile ability to 90 percentile in verb tenses in just an hour. Imagine being able to do so for each and every section in SC. Imagine the kind of impact that's going to have on your overall score in SC. So it may seem very difficult initially to go from 60 percentile to 90 percentile, but utilizing the data that is your data, you have now a sure shot way of getting there. Let's take a look at Ria's story now. Ria thought her SC was very good, but she faltered big time in SC in her first attempt. And then she purchased Verbal online and did the SC course diligently. She looked at her data in the course dashboard and in Scholaranium, and she focused selectively on certain areas and was finally able to score 99 percentile in SC. So remember, notice the power of data. This is one of the many examples of students who've gone from nowhere to acing GMAT SC as well as other sections on GMAT. While their starting points are different, they take different times to prepare, but the thing that's common amongst everyone is that they apply the methods that are taught in the course, and they leverage Scholaranium data to isolate areas of weakness, and they work on fixing those weaknesses. To end, what I'd like to say is that putting effort to ace GMAT requires sacrifices. But it's these sacrifices that take us to the next level in our lives, just as they did for Nishant, or for Mansi, or for Samya, or for Ria. So again, I hope it's clear to all of you that to get to that 90 percentile, you need to not just study, but you need to focus on perfecting. All right, so now we are in the last section of this webinar. So let's get a few questions here while I share the PDF of this session. All right, let me just take this away. Give me just 1 second. I need to get the PDF done here. In the meanwhile, why don't you post your questions in the Q&A pod. Or actually, let's get your questions in this answer piles question pod. That way I can And I would love to get your feedback here. Do you also conduct sessions like these for quant? Absolutely, we do. So tomorrow is the session in number properties, so definitely register for that. What is the best way to efficiently improve if you're already at 90th percentile? If you're already at 90th percentile, you don't really need to improve much. You're already there. See, beyond 90th percentile, it's all how you manage your time in the test. What is your frame of mind when you're taking the session? What is your frame of mind when you're taking the test? And all you need to do now is maintain your 90th percentile, and for that utilize Scholarinium, take quizzes. Let's say create 10 question quiz with hard questions, and just make sure that you are able to just make sure that you review the mistakes that you're making. Okay. How can I view the sessions that I have missed? Send us a link, send us which sessions you are looking for, and we can send you the links to the sessions that you should have access to. Okay, what if the meaning is fully wrong in option A? Yes, the meaning can, what do you mean by meaning is fully wrong? Again, as we looked at in this session, there are certain things that you have to understand the meaning of various parts of the sentence, right? So the individual parts you need to understand the meaning of, and then you need to put that meaning together if the sentence doesn't communicate a complete meaning. Okay. What is how to increase understanding speed? That will come with practice, and frankly, if you think about it, think about the last new skill that you built. It could be learning how to play a piano or how to play guitar, learning how to swim, learning how to play tennis. It could be anything, right? And remember, go back to those early days of you imbibing that skill. You weren't able to swim at the speed that you swim today. It took practice, right? Practice in the right manner, right? It's not just putting hands here and there, or just flipping your feet in the wrong way. You have to practice the right way. And as soon as you start doing that, you will see, as soon as the process starts to become second nature to you, you will see that the time to answer questions will come down. Okay, there is a reason why we share these success stories in these sessions, right? It's one thing that I say something. It's another thing when you see that there were successful students who actually benefited from the course in the specified manner. Okay. I get very anxious while solving verbal questions. How to rectify it? You get anxious because you don't have a very solid process of approaching the question, so you need to solidify that process. Is there a webinar on CR anytime soon? I'm pretty sure, I believe next weekend there should be a CR webinar. No, next weekend is RC. Beyond that, so 2 weeks from now. Can I purchase only verbal? Yes, you can. You can purchase verbal online. Already gone through these assessments with 100% in the quiz, but still got incorrect answers in this webinar. So I'll have to so I would want you to take a look at your dashboard and understand that it's you need to also get more than 80% in the application files, which is an indication that you're imbibing the process. Right? So if you simply are getting 100% score in the concept files but not in the application file, then that's an issue right there. Okay. So again, look at that. All right, then I think that's about it. So I wish all of you good luck for your preparation. If you have any questions with regards to how to create your study plan, definitely write to us at support@e-GMAT.com and we'll be happy to help you. Definitely utilize GMAT Planner to create your personalized study plan. The questions such as what do I do first, SC, CR, RC, again, it all depends upon you. what your starting score is, what your end score is, what your level of interest is. Typically what I tell is that if you're starting off, there's always that inertia, right? And you need to get certain wins in your pocket. So I always want you guys to select the topic that you are most comfortable with, and in which you, let's say you like solving CR questions more than you like solving SC questions, then and you are at similar skill level, starting level in both SC and CR, then I would say pick up CR. Do CR first so that you get that confidence that yes, you can improve. Okay? All right then, that's it for now. Thank you for your overwhelming response. I really appreciate that, and it was really wonderful conducting this webinar for you. And if you have any other questions, please do write to us. Good luck.